but Salford edged them. They also made 2 more breaks and had a big 6.3% better team tackle success rate. They did give up more errors, but fewer penalties. The stats say they were deserved winners, maybe not 3-score deserved winners, but deserved winners. Individually, Ken Seo is the top try scorer in Super League, 2 tries, 199 metres. I wonder if Salford are going to be able to... I mean, his contract value must have gone up in the last month when he's been scoring 2s and 3s every week. Reece Williams, 195 metres. Dan Sargentson, 7 tackles, 143 metres. And Andy Ackers, 7 tackles, 100 metres, 3 successful offloads. For Saints, the only ones who tipped the stats scales were Regan Grace with a try assist, 157 metres and 2 clean breaks, and Ben Davies with 126 metres. From the disciplinary on this one, Dan Sargentson picked up a grade C striking charge. He's been a naughty boy this year. That's a 3-match ban for him that he'll obviously start next season, missing a few games. No fan views on this one, but we don't blame anyone necessarily at this stage of proceedings for that. Have you watched the highlights?
I have, yes. You could tell it wasn't Saints' first team because their first try was some fantastic ball movement and just taking chances in a tackle. So something we've not really seen from them. So they need to stick their academy side out more often, I reckon.
Yeah, it was a very good try, the opening try. Regan Grace was good, showed supreme, we're talking about your fast players. Regan Grace, over 20 metres, is as fast as anyone. He showed some supreme acceleration around the outside and, came inside, managed to keep the play going. It ended up with young Jonathan Bennison, who I've never heard of, who was on debut at fullback. Shea Martin was on debut on the wing. I don't know, is he any relation to Tommy Martin? The surname is spelled.
Yeah, it's his son, I think. Yeah.
There you go. And Sam Royal made his debut after signing his new contract as well. Other not so familiar names in the squad were Jake Wingfield, Josh Eves, and Dan Norman, who've only had a handful of appearances in the Saints first team. Players that were missing for Saints was Alex Wormsley, and Lachlan Coote, Tommy Makinson, Mark Percival, Nguama. Lomax was back. He scored a very tight to the line try, but he was back for Saints, so got some game time into him before the playoffs. But yeah, I suppose is this enough to say Salford ended the season on a high, or is it still a season, do you think, for Richard Marshall, where there's more questions than there are answers at Salford?
Where does Salford go from this? I think it's good to end the season on a high, and they seem to be generating something of an atmosphere from the highlights that kind of came through, which you don't always get down there. So it's good for them to carry that positivity into the off season. I just don't see from what they've signed or anything that they've really shown. I mean, if they do lose CO, who's been one of their rays of light this year, I don't know. They're going to be down there again next season, aren't they?
You'd have to think so. Why academy product Ellis Robson scoring a try in this one? Salford, you'd think he's a candidate for a player who might be at that sort of level next year, isn't it? Bottom end of Super League, but getting a lot of starts.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he signed an extension for us this season. So whether he'll probably be in that group of getting loaned out, but the reserves are back next year. So that changes the dynamic, I think. And whether you see players like that getting loaned out to those lower teams or whether you see them bolstering the reserves, I think that'll be an interesting one to see how that kind of develops next year.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that works with the reserves every other week as well, rotating with the academy, seeing Robson's kind of the player who can't play for the academy, is too old for that level now, so he could still be a lone candidate. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I don't think he's done himself any harm in his spell at Salford. Okay, the fourth game to talk about. No stats on this game, but a few fan views. Wakefield versus Hull FC. In the theme of some of the other games earlier. It was over at half time. We don't have a crowd figure for this, but Robert Hicks was the referee. 34-0 Wakefield had gone into the half-time sheds leading by. So the game was over at that point. Hull did win the second half, 12 points to 10, but 44-12 is a comprehensive victory for Trinity. A few fan views on this. Do you want to start us off with Always in Our Shadow?
Who said, season over, thank fuck, see you all in February.
Joshua Squared said, read last week's effort. In fact, read 9 out of the last 10. Big rack for Jacob Hookham, who came off the bench after losing 2 fullbacks, and at least he had a bloody go at organising things.
Tom Andrews, we might have lost, but at least the Pink Panther wasn't kicking goals for fun. This game had sparked Twitter meltdowns of biblical proportions, everything from players in breach of contracts for being shit to Pearson should fold the club. Seriously stuff to brighten any red and white's day. Sure, the Emperor will train them well all week and they will repay the fans' faith next week. Oh, wait.
Wakey White said, not a bad way to sign off a strange year for Wakey. The game was won in a blistering first half with Hull making plenty of errors in the face of intense Trinity defence. All of Wakey's playmakers had great games and combined well to set up tries flying in against the fishy foe. Miller and Hampshire in particular were excellent. Second half Hull improved, but the game was long gone. # Willie for president. And we did get in a late line from our friend Scoots as well. Sarah said, glad that's over. No interest from most of the players. Highlight was Jacob Hook and get him on the pitch and taking control. I'm not sure Hodgson would have put him on had his hand not been forced. One place to start with this one, isn't there? Especially for you, Mason Lino. Is it a legitimate record?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this record, to be honest. These competition records, I don't know what this new Super League / NRL record is that seems to have been created around this. Look, let's celebrate the fact that 37 goals in a row is pretty impressive, to say the least.
30,
other people,
36 was 37. Yeah, sorry, it was his. Then he missed the next one after that, and that's why they put David Fafita on goal kicking.
Yeah, but other players have done better. So let's not try and make it sound better than it is by restricting it to particular competitions. That's my own take on it, anyway.
It's the top division record, though, isn't it? As well, if we look beyond Super League, is it not? Like, the old First Division as well? Yeah,
probably.
I suppose stats aren't always as reliable and consistent that we might not necessarily.
Missed goal kicks isn't necessarily something that's been recorded through time. Pretty unlikely that anyone's ever beaten it, because you'd think it would have been commented on if somebody was on that kind of run, and kicking with the old leather balls was quite different than kicking with a modern one. So probably. But yeah, we don't really do stats like that in this country, where we restrict it so much to a particular competition or a particular division. That's a bit of an Aussie way of recording things, and it causes more problems and confusion than it's worth for me. So that's probably why I'm a bit averse to it. The highlight for me from watching the highlights was just at the point that Hull were attacking, you can hear a single Hull fan half chanting, half shouting, "All we want is a fucking point." and then they went and scored straight after. So yeah, that was a particularly enjoyable moment. And the lad that sounds like the Icelandic volcano was the one that scored.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, Mitch. You and me.
That's better than what I tried to write down.
Miteli Vulikejapani. I think Lino gets talked about for that goal kicking streak, which is been fantastic, but also I think his form has been fantastic in general under Poaching, and it looked like from the brief bits I saw on the highlights and the match review I've read, it looked like he was pulling the strings again. Him and Miller have worked so well together that it makes total sense that they're going to be signing Luke Gale and breaking those two up next season. But there you go. That seems what's happening from what we've heard, but rumours and all that. There were some pretty easy tries scored for Wakefield as well as some good tries. Miller's was pretty soft. It was a walk-in against his former club. But then the Fafita one after that was even more bizarre, where I don't know if I can't believe the tackle wasn't completed or something. But anyway, he seemed to just pick up a loose ball off the floor and walk 40 meters whilst everyone stood around waiting to set up for a restart.
I think he was injured, the player in the tackle.
Connor Wynn, yeah.
And then he kind of dropped the ball, and then it was one of them where they played on, and then he a pretty enthusiastic celebration from Fafita, which was maybe in slightly bad taste, but that was my read on it anyway.
Oh, well, then in that case, I'm surprised none of the Hull fans have mentioned it in the reviews. It seems an even more typical way for their season to end, doesn't it, after what happened in the Cup semi-final as well. But and David Fafita kicking goals. How bizarre.
You know it's the end of the season when you see things like that.
That's right, yeah. Another end of season game with no stats was played at Wigan on Friday night. The first home game since fans have been allowed back in that I've not been at, but I had very good reasons. 12,852 people were there, though. James Child was the referee. He was there as well. It was 6-0 to Wigan at half-time. It finished 12 points to 8 to Wigan. We got a couple of fan views. Do you want to start with Jens?
Yeah, okay. For a meaningless game, this was very competitive. Superb kicking from Hastings and a brilliant try from McDonald. Bring on the Rhinelands.
Yeah, and White Pie said, for the first time in 2021, Wigan put in a performance, but for poor handling would have won more comfortably. Wigan rested several first-team players and the kids came in and stepped up. We kept Maloney and Drinkwater quiet, and losing Sam hampered Catalans, but most of their territory was on the back of Wigan errors or penalties. Wigan looked much more creative with ball in hand, and their goal line defence, especially late in the first half, to hold up Cassiano twice was brilliant. Catalans were restricted to one real break for Davies' try. Zach knocked on over the try line when it was easiest to score with 2 minutes to go, but Wigan saw out the game. Question is, have we been playing possum for the last 22 weeks to lull the other sides into thinking we are shit? No, probably not, but certainly our best rugby of the year.
Yeah. Beware Wigan at this time of year. That's my takeaway from what I've seen over the last few weeks, including Magic and the fact that you still lost that game to us. The defence has got miserly at just the right time, I think. We know the attack's not been great all season, but you're scoring enough points in games like this to win it. Winning on kicks is probably unusual from what we've seen from Wigan, I think, this year, isn't it? But
yeah, and Zach Hardaker's back on kicking duty now, and he kicked. The first one he kicked was from close-ish to the sideline. The second one was right in front of the stick, so he shouldn't have been able to miss that one. But Maloney missed both his kicks. Sam Tompkins picked up a knee injury on 20 minutes. I'm not sure how significant that is for in 2 weeks' time from Catalans' point of view, but it did seem significant in this match in that Wigan were threatening in that opening phase of the game, but not executing. And Sam Tompkins will have been a part of that. He was getting himself into the right positions from the highlights I've seen of this match. One thing of note, Wigan opened up with a 40-20 at the end of the first set. And I think that was a statement of intent. There was a couple of breaks down the right-hand side where the execution wasn't quite there. And then eventually the try after a kick from Hastings for Willie Ice sort of towards the back end of the first half. But it seems like Wigan were definitely the best side in the first half and deserved the win as well. Have you seen the James McDonald try? That was quite a special way to crown your home debut with your first ever try in Wigan colours.
Yeah, I think noticeable as well for Hastings linking up with Smith, who made the tip on, I think, to McDonald. And yeah, he did great, the lad, didn't he?
Really good, actual, accurate execution of an attacking play by Wigan, which was interesting to see. But yeah, he did really well. Matt Whitley probably has just about come around from the hit he took as he was almost redirected him to get around the other defender by running into Whitley, bouncing him off, and then knocking back inside and scoring under the post. But it was a really good committed line as well that he hit off the quick hand from Smith. too. So it was a cracking try. The lineups were interested in this one. I sort of suggested last week that Catalans